Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 was announced at GDC this year, a game that either makes you incredibly excited or, more likely, a sequel to a game that you never actually played, but sort of remember because the box art had like a kinky vampire schoolgirl on it. But there's a reason why Bloodlines is such a cult classic. A first-person role-playing game with open-world elements, packed full of interesting characters. Created in the Source engine by a team of 17 developers who didn't really get along with their publishers at the time, Activision. It sold very poorly, perhaps because of the bugs, or perhaps because it was released on the same day as arguably the best first-person shooter ever made. Yeah, I know, literally the same day. But there's a lot to love about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and with the announcement of its sequel, it's probably time you got up to speed on this fan favourite. So we sat down with Brian Mitsoda, the writer of the original game, and Christian Schluter, producer at the game's publisher Paradox Interactive, to find out exactly how this dark marriage came to be, how a relatively small dev team in Seattle is tackling an RPG of this scale, and why the publishers in Sweden decided to make a sequel to a 15-year-old vampire game that a lot of us had kind of forgotten about.
I'm Brian Mitsoda. I'm the narrative lead at Hardsuit Labs.
And I'm Christian Schluter. I'm the lead producer on Bloodlines 2 over at Paradox Interactive.
Thanks so much for coming in. You're 12 hours, I think, from announcing the game. How are the heads this morning?
You know, we'll power through it.
So obviously in 2015, Paradox bought the World of Darkness IP, which is of course a big portfolio of IPs. There's Vampire in there, there's Werewolf in there, there's Mummy in there. Us being a video game company, we knew we wanted to do a Bloodlines 2 at some point. But honestly, at the beginning, we thought that that's gonna be way down the line, because we knew that if we do it, we need to do it right. So we expected that to be a bit later, and that we would do some other games before that. Well, but then these guys come along.
Yeah, the day they announced that they had the IP, Kai Clooney, who's the creative director at Hardsuit, he's a good friend of mine, and he just texted me with what would you think about working on Bloodlines 2? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And then he basically sent the link. The IP had been acquired by Paradox. And so, you know, I know we're kind of texting back and forth ideas about the setting, things we would want to do with the game. We started working on the story and the look and feel. And like a few months later in February at DICE, we pitched it to Paradox.
Right.
Yeah.
You like pitched a game for the IP that they owned. Yeah. That they could presumably, or maybe were already making.
Yeah, it was pretty ballsy.
Yeah, that's actually, like, if you know how indie studios work, it's probably a death move. Like, you put a lot of time, effort, and like in turn also money into creating a pitch that you can pitch to exactly one partner. And if they already have something, or they're actually not looking for something, or they don't take it, then you have wasted all of your effort. So yeah, it was a ballsy move, but it paid off.
Yeah, definitely a moonshot. Bloodlines 1 famously was just a slog to get through. We had from when I came on, we had about a year and a half to go from like, we barely have anything to release. It's debatable whether we actually finished the game, but yeah, it was. I mean, it was really one of those things that was a bunch of young developers really passionate about the game that they were working on, and you know, in the young developer way, just killing themselves to get it done, doing whatever they can to just get the game that they're all excited about out. It was a little bit different, the publisher relationship. It was definitely an us versus them mentality a lot of times with Troika and Activision. It was one of those things that we all knew it was a special thing that we were working on. I think it was something that when we were done, the sad part was that we felt like we'll never get to do something like that again.
Nothing. Nothing. Just waiting for a friend to get off work. He's a police officer. Old army buddy. He should be bringing his dog as well. It's a Rottweiler. Wonderful attack dogs, they are.
I'm originally from Germany, so yeah, it was very big at the time, and it was kind of that RPG that all your friends had their own opinion about, and where everyone says like, okay, yeah, you need to get through the bugs, and then it's an awesome experience. The thing with Bloodlines 1 is just that it can speak to everyone, because the characters that Brian created at the time just have such a universal appeal to them.
Then I suggest you order something healthy, like the cheese omelet surprise, Inspector. If the cook doesn't spit in it, surprise.
I think the popularity in Europe is probably, and the press over there are kind of what made it into a cult hit. Bloodlines 1 kind of came and went, and the sales were not very good when it released. And then
famously released next to another big game.
Yeah, famously next to Half-Life 2 and a bunch of other games that went on to sell millions. But it was really like when the European press started writing about Bloodlines that people started revisiting it and picking it up, and then over time we've just seen it like every time it goes on sale, people start talking about it, and then we have all these new players, and it's just in this perpetual fan base that grows every time I meet fans that were obviously not playing it when it was released because they're tiny babs, and I'm like, it's so weird, but it's also cool because you don't really work on many games where people are coming up to you 15 years later.
I like crab nibble, listen, got crab nibble, oh, got a crab nibble.
It is a lot front-loaded for the narrative side. We have to kind of define what the story is, what the locations are, who the characters are, how many characters, how many quests are we looking at, so the production can kind of help coordinate all that with the other departments, and then we have to go in the main story first, and we did a lot of iteration in the pre-production part of things, and the first thing that was hooked up a lot was the story, the main story path, and then we were kind of fleshing out things around that. We then made of course, a proof of concept. One of the things that the proof of concept had to do was kind of go, is this a Bloodlines game? Is it do we nail the look and feel? Our production staff is just on point. They are amazing. They kind of make us more efficient by being great at organizing everything and making sure that the departments talk to each other. I mean, yeah, you really can't make a lot of mistakes when you've got this kind of small of a crew and you're doing a game this big. You have to get things right as much as you can the first time.
You guys are over 50 people by now working on the game, so of course there's lots of departments working on it. There's lots of intertwining disciplines that need to work with each other, so producing and organizing the whole thing becomes much more important.
You kind of lose efficiency when you start going over a certain size. You have communication breakdown, and then you just lose a lot of time to that. So actually I think keeping it on the smaller size kind of allows us to have a lot more open communication about stuff in the leads, knowing what everyone else is doing and talking about it and running over and grabbing people that they need. It's a lot. For me, I actually like that a lot more. It's a little bit more efficient and more hands-on. I think one thing that it had going for it, and still does, is that it's an RPG set in contemporary times. So it was a mature game, and it was not just playing up the violence, but actually kind of dealing with some other themes that were bigger than than the classic kind of, dwarves and elves hate each other, which was kind of almost every game at that time. So, that's something that, we still don't have a lot of RPGs that kind of deal with these themes and are set in, modern times, and there aren't many games that let you, you're generally when you're playing an RPG, or you're the hero, and Bloodlines you're the monster. And I think that's one of those things that, like, especially being a vampire game, people can imagine themselves as any type of monster, and the vampire lets them do that. And I think that's part of the widespread appeal.